Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a while since I've been able to give any sort of update on what's going on as far as AEW is concerned. These last few weeks of podcast and the upcoming few weeks of podcast we had recorded a few weeks ago. They're more interview-based, as most of you can tell. So there are really no updates given throughout them. It's more focused on the people that are on for that given week, and I just figured I'd take a couple minutes and just address some things that are going on because I keep getting asked, what is the update on AIW coming back, especially since Ohio has begun a bit of their reopening processes, and to be honest, there is still no timetable on AIW coming back. There's been no updates as far as entertainment or live events or anything like that are concerned. So as of right now, really, we're in the same position that we've been in for the last few months. And, that's all I can really say. What I can tell you is when there is a change and when things are totally ready to go, the best place for you to find out when we're going to have a show, sign up for our email list, which you can do. There's a link right on the front page of our website, aiwrestling.com. So I would encourage everybody to go and do that, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/aiwrestling. Those are going to be the first two places where any sort of announcement is going to be made. I know that there are a lot of people that are anxious for us to get back to doing shows, and I'm very thankful for that. But like I said, there's really no updates as far as that is concerned, and I would just be speculating if I said anything right now. So I'm just kind of waiting to hear, just like everybody else, and seeing what the protocols are going to be, and then from there we'll have to make a decision and figure out what's going to happen. I've been doing some Patreon podcasts. I did one last week with some AIW fans in which, there was an open dialogue and they were able to ask me some things, and I was able to, address some of their concerns and questions and everything as it pertains to right now. And, so, if you want to listen to that, go ahead. If not, no big deal. But that is a good way to support us right now, is through our Patreon. And I just want to thank everybody for continuing to sign up to independentwrestling.tv and watching the AIW shows and streaming our events, because right now, compensation or revenue or whatever you want to call it, like, that's the only money that we have coming in right now, and it's helping us get by. I'm not gonna lie, it's very helpful right now, especially during this time. The only other big update that I have is for a lot of the collectors that like to collect all the AIW DVDs, and there's been the first about 2.5 years were kind of hard to find. They were just pretty much produced locally and sold through our website for the first few years, and we stopped selling them, and I was able to track down those files, and I got them the Smart Mark video. I talked about Chandler's family giving me a hard drive in which we thought everything was on there, and it turned out that none of the stuff worked that was on the hard drive. So throughout this process, I was able to track down all of the shows that were actually filmed and recorded and released, and I got them out to Smart Mark Video. And now if you go to smartmarkvideo.com, those first 2.5 years of AIW, which have never been available before on Smart Mark Video, are now for sale on DVD and MP4, including the debut show. So that's really, the only updates that I have for everybody. It's nothing great. It's nothing, groundbreaking, but we do have some, like I said, those first 2 years are being re-released on DVD again, and they are available on MP4 for the first time ever, as well as, our streams on Independent Wrestling TV. And I'm sure some of you have noticed, and some of you have participated in, we've been selling whatever AIW merchandise we had left in storage on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. I still do have some stuff left, so if there's anything you are interested in, please email me at aiw@aiwrestling.com. And, probably I've kind of laid off on it the last couple weeks. I realized I've just been bombarding people with trying to sell this stuff. So, I've kind of cooled off on it. I understand that it's probably annoying that our social media is just like trying to sell t-shirts and pins and things that, we found in our storage unit. But, so I've cooled off on it. But if there's anything that, you were interested in, or, you want to know if we have your size, please email me. We can work something out. And go back to the email list again. We will be taking an inventory on what we have left, and I don't know, probably the next week or two, sending out an update to the AIW email list. So, it's like an everything must go situation right now. We're no different than every other business that is struggling right now. We're doing okay. We're getting by, but obviously, our main source of income was live events and shows, and we do still have bills, and we have a wrestling school, and other things that we have to pay for monthly. So that's really the big update. Is there is no update. We're just trying to sell some stuff, and some new things are available, and there's really nothing, it appears, that is going to change for the foreseeable future. But like I said, when we do figure out when we're going to do a show, and we figure out what the new regulations are, if there are any, which I'm sure there will be, we will be announcing that to our Patreon and our email list subscribers first. And then, from there, it will probably be made public eventually, or not. It doesn't, we don't really know, if there are audience restrictions and capacity issues. There's a very good chance that this could just be a email list only thing. Like I said, I'm not going to really speculate on what the new rules are. I've heard rumors, and we're all kind of waiting to see what happens when the athletic commission meets in June. So, until then, I'm sure there's not going to be any updates. I think it's safe to say at this time that JLIT weekend will be postponed, which is awful, but, we're about a month out, and it would just be pretty much impossible to try to coordinate everything for that with a month's time. So I'm going to go ahead and probably just make the announcement here that JLIT weekend will be postponed until a later date. If you would like a refund, much like all the other events that have been postponed, please request it through Eventbrite, and we will process that and get you a refund. But other than that, please, if you have any questions for me or concerns, like I said, you can email me at aiw@aiwrestling.com, and any way that you can support us is greatly appreciated right now. And I just wanted to thank all those that have been, our independent wrestling.tv numbers have been the best of all time since joining the service. Our viewership is through the roof, to be quite honest, and I couldn't be happier about that, because every view that you watch on independent wrestling TV, that is how we're compensated. So please continue to watch our shows on independentwrestling.tv. It helps us greatly right now. And like I said, if you have any questions for me, easy to get a hold of, aiw@aiwrestling.com. And, I'll try to give updates as I know things leading into these interview type podcasts that we recorded over the last, like I said, we recorded them a few weeks ago, and I think we got something like 8 weeks worth or 9 weeks worth. So, there's not a lot of actual updates within the context of the interview or the podcast. So I hope this has updated you on pretty much everything staying the same as of right now. Like I said, as things progress, we will be making announcements through our email list, and you can sign up for that at aiwrestling.com. All right, here's the show.
Hello once again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, we of course want to give a shout out to our sponsors that help us bring the show to you for free each and every week on whichever platform you choose to listen. Thanks to Angelo's Pizza, while you may not be able to dine in right now, you can certainly still order it for pickup or delivery. So make sure you check out Angelo's on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. Thanks to Pollyanna DIY, they make some amazing enamel pins for us, and they do some awesome custom merchandise beyond that as well. So check out Pollyanna DIY on social media and, of course, their website. And thanks to the merger of SmartMark Video and IWTV, watching AIW has never been easier. Maybe you couldn't make it to a show. Maybe you want to watch a show that you went to in person and watch it back. You can buy the DVD or the MP4 through smartmarkvideo.com. They have almost all of the AIW archives available there. You can also sign up for independentwrestling.tv using the code ABSOLUTE and get yourself a 5-day free trial and check out the revolving AIW archives that are there, as well as other independent wrestling promotions. And with that, we get into this week's episode. Some more podcasting from a distance. I don't know what we would call that, John. Social distance podcasting, I guess. But always joined by AIW owner John Thorne.
Podcasting remotely.
Yeah, there we go. And on this week's episode, we are also joined by a man of legendary status in AIW within the last year. I don't know what to call him anymore. We have finally gotten to know him as CPA. And I guess, are we calling you Nick now? Is that
Nick? Just Nick.
Just Nick.
Steve, you got to get off your Wi-Fi with your cell phone or something. You got a very bad network going today.
I do.
Yeah,
man.
You got the AJ Gray bad network going on.
Something's been going on with my Hulu. That's my cable, as I have Hulu Live.
No, it's a streaming. It's a streaming service. It's not cable, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you can get Hulu Live TV. Yeah, instead of, I watch the regular local channels and everything. But
I got Fubo TV. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, you went up to an average network there for a second.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know,
man. Nothing. I haven't done anything different, but
neighbor must have hacked your Wi-Fi password.
There's no neighbor right now. My neighbor's moved out.
Someone breaking in through the window.
Everybody that. Yeah, that's what's happening. Wow. So, Nick, are we going with Nick Stapp? Is that what we're calling you, or do we just say Nick?
Yeah, you could call me whatever you want. It doesn't matter for the time being. I'm not gonna be anything for a while. I'm just going to be Guy Nick at home. So
Guy Nick at home.
Guy Nick at home. I'm Steve Guy at home.
You are especially locked down out there on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, I could still technically do stuff, and I probably shouldn't be. I mean, I go to the store. I don't know. I don't really... I've been staying at my mom's house because I think the person I rent from is, I'm fairly certain, immunodeficient, so I've just been staying here to avoid any possible problems. So
that's nice of you to look out for that other person.
Yeah, I try sometimes. On occasion,
a man with a heart. He's got a heart on him, huh?
Yeah. As we record this, we are able to see each other via video. You listeners obviously aren't watching the video, but not a man to disappoint. Nick's got was that 16 or 20 ounce Black Cherry White Claw right there I'm looking at.
I can't see you guys. I feel like that this is very GTV.
You can see you.
It's God damn it. So you saw me take my pants off. That's unfortunate. I expect to see all that coming up.
We're not recording the video though, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, good. Okay.
Everybody's already seen enough of your work on video. It's
exactly.
So I don't know. Should we just get right into it, Thor? I mean,
well, I know what I want to get right into.
Okay, you go ahead.
And it is the fact that there was, I don't know, a couple months ago, Hornswoggle came in early, and we were messing around on YouTube, and it led us down this rabbit hole of wrestlers who are drunk at independent wrestling shows. And we watched quite a few. Our favorite one was one called "The Sandman Falls Asleep in a Match," in which he doesn't fall asleep in a match, I don't think, and it's like this 11-minute long video that leads to nowhere. But then through that, we land on Just Incredible drunk at a show, and we are watching this unfold. And I saw it when it first happened, but I forgot about it. And sure enough, we both jump out of our chairs and pop because there's a CPA around the ringside ready to ready to fight for the locker room. It appears, standing in solidarity with the rest of the boys. And what was that like?
So we had we were in the I was in the opening match. It was like a triple threat tag match or whatever. And the commissioner guy, he's not really like a wrestling guy. I think he like works at public offices in Enfield, Connecticut, where that show happened. And I guess the promoter knows him, and he just has him as like kind of the, the authority figurehead guy. He was supposed to come down and announce whatever match we were having at the next show. I saw Just Incredible upstairs, and he was just saying hi to people, whatever. I didn't really nothing seemed amiss from what I was looking at, but I was also, just getting ready for the match. So we get done with the match, and we're like, all right, here's the big announcement thing. And then Just Incredible just comes to the ring, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I figured they'd play his music or something like that. And I'm like, I guess part of me was like, oh, maybe he wants to leave early, so maybe he's just gonna put over the talent, whatever. And he comes out, and I hear his wife was there, and he's a nice guy. I've met him a few times since then. He's always been very nice to me. But that night, I hear his wife scream. Well, I hear a woman who it turned out to be his wife screaming. And he comes down. He's like, "Give me the fucking mic." I was like, "Oh no!" I've been drunk enough times in my life to know what it sounds like when someone's drunk. I was like, "Oh no, this is bad. This is really bad." So we were already all out of the ring by that point, and he has a kendo stick in his hand. I'm like, oh fuck, this isn't good. This is gonna be really, really bad soon. So the promoter immediately runs down, and he's like, no, I'm not giving, they refuse to give him the mic. And I had my guard up, but I don't really know what exactly I planned on doing, and maybe sing a song to him or something, like Jumper by Third Eye Blind. That's the song that came to mind. And I was just like, I don't even know what to do. Honestly, and this is going to sound really silly, my biggest concern wasn't him hitting me with a kendo stick if I jumped in the ring. It was him throwing up on me. So that is literally the reason 1 through 1,000 why I didn't actually jump in and do anything. And I wouldn't have fought him because I don't know
it's
what
just incredible.
Do,
Yeah, who wants to fight Just Incredible?
Exactly,
I just thought it was funny because you've been in locker rooms before, and sometimes the testosterone is really ramping up, and everyone's if there's a fan that's getting out of hand, everyone's yeah, let's go fight him or something like that. And it's just it's so funny because you just see the locker room gradually empty, and it's just that's the situation I'm envisioning is people are oh, fuck this guy, fuck this Just Incredible guy. But then nobody really wants to do anything either because it's Just Incredible. And it's just so funny, out of the corner of the camera, you just see CPA in his full CPA tie gear. And me and Hornswoggle had a good laugh about that.
And also, I the girl I was with at the time, I went outside to vox her about what had just happened because she kind of knew about wrestling because of me, and she had watched it a little bit. And I upgraded to a pro account recently just to hear this vox again. We're not together anymore, but I had to listen to it. It's a 3-minute vox of me. I was like, "Hey, some crazy shit just happened." And then all of a sudden in the back you hear, but you just hear people screaming because someone called a cab for them, but they refused to get into the cab, and it was snowing out too, so they were just slipping and sliding all over the place, wacky inflatable waving or tube men. It was fucking insane. So all you hear in the background is just them screaming.
Him and his wife.
It was
okay.
Yeah, because they did not want to get in the cab. They did not want to leave. And then someone was like, "Hey, we're gonna call the cops if you don't leave." And then he finally made his exit, but it was a good
Oh, it's on. It's on. I mean, the whole thing is on YouTube, and his like rant lasts. I feel way longer than 2 minutes in the ring.
Oh no, I'm just saying that's me outside by myself watching this happen. I got the tail end of it.
Yeah, it's I'll never forget the day that Just Incredible followed me on Twitter. I was very excited about that. I was a huge Just Incredible fan. And then recently I looked and Just Incredible has blocked me on Twitter. I have no idea why. I have no idea what I did to Just Incredible.
So he followed me the next day too. He followed a lot of people because literally like the next day, or maybe a day later, a day or two later, I don't remember, but it was like that weekend. He was already working on his recovery documentary. Immediately after that happened, like there was no rest time. There was no like, and then we visit Just Incredible at, a halfway house. Like, no, like the next day he was like, guys, I'm coming back. I'm never going to pull this shit again. Followed me. Funny block story. It has nothing to do with Just Incredible. This was like 2015. I was at a convention thing with Hawkins and Vampiro was there and I'm staying with Brian and Brian's like, oh shit, I wonder if I follow him on Twitter. And Vampiro, who Brian has never met in a day in his life, blocked Brian on Twitter.
Yeah, I have no idea what I did to get blocked by Just Incredible, but I was very upset. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it.
Brian's not one to like be on Twitter bashing people either. So
no,
like, I don't know.
Like he's not like me where like I can look back and see like me, like adding like Republican politicians and calling him piece of shit, you know what I mean? Like he was in WWE when Twitter started, so he has no
he's very
reason
like he's very like by the book on social media, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was like the first thing that popped into mind when Steve said, "Let's get to the bottom of it," because that's what I wanted to get to the bottom
of the matter.
Was the Just Incredible drunk in the ring in Connecticut story.
How long ago was it?
That was December 2017.
Oh, okay. I have another thing that just popped. Speaking of Hawkins, I have another thing that just popped up that I wanted to discuss with you. A couple nights ago, I got a message from Hawkins, and it was a match of like you and Balls Mahoney as a tag team against New Jack, and I don't even know who else was in the match, but I know it's you and Balls Mahoney for sure were a tag team, and New Jack was in the match.
Yep.
What's the story?
I like how he sent you that video, and I asked him for the video, and he said, "Oh, we'll watch it at Cap when we open it." That whole thing was a disaster. If you don't mind,
let's get into it. Let's get into it.
All right. So at the time, this was you probably remember Peter.
Yeah, right? What's his name? Eric Tapout, right?
Yes, Eric Tapout. Yeah. So I was just doing what I had this weird, because I was only like 2 years in at that point, and I had my own little weird universe in PWS where I was never involved in any like angles or feuds or anything. I just wrestled like whoever like the pseudo big name was. Like I had like one of my first singles matches was with EC3, and it was like such a weird universe for me to exist in. Like I teamed with Larry Zbyszko. I wrestled Eddie Kingston one show. Like it was just madness every month. I was like, why am I doing this? This is insane. I'm not good enough to be in the ring with these people. I think like, was it PJ Black, his first match back on the indies was this. I was in the 6-way with him. It was so weird, but I guess like the character, it kind of worked with, whatever, like weird structures. So I was supposed. It was. I'll try to breeze through the origins of the team with Balls and I. So I had a match. We had a show in Brooklyn. I had a match with Mantar the next day, and Pat Buck texted me and said, "Hey, we got this idea where we want you to team up with Balls." And I was like, "Oh, all right, that's fine. I mean, he can like barely walk, but that's cool. Whatever." So like. We kind of we sowed the seeds the next night, and then we had to like take it into our own hands to explain why we were a team at the show after. So I was like, "Hey, Balls, you'll get away with this. It's my idea, but you'll get away with it. After the match, can you just grab the mic and explain why we're teaming up in the first place?" He's like, yeah, no problem, we'll do it. So like he grabs the mic and he's like, CPA, I don't know, you're kind of a little pussy, and I need you to need to teach you how to fight. And, I have a lot of financial troubles. So, yeah, let's team up. And I was like, all right, cool, man. We're a team. We were the Wolves of Balls Street, by the way, for those keeping score. So we had a few matches, and they were always just like disasters. Like, not because of him necessarily. It was just always like happenstance that the matches we were in just never like.
Oh, this was like an ongoing tag team. I thought this was a one night only.
No, I think we teamed like 3 or 4 times over the span of like 3 months.
Wow.
So this night, we were in a tag gauntlet match. To peek behind the curtain a little bit, on the lineup sheet in the back, this tag gauntlet match was scheduled to go 10 minutes. Actually, also a weird callback. This was Justin Credible's retirement show, the first time he retired. So this tag gauntlet match, and you as a promoter know that tag gauntlet matches go on fucking forever.
That's why usually. I try not to do them.
This was right. And this was literally no exception. It was supposed to go 10 minutes. I'm going to have to ask Pat, but I'm pretty sure it went 35 minutes.
Sounds about right.
So, yeah. So, originally, at the time, New Jack wasn't wrestling. He had retired a while ago. I think he was, like, thinking about coming back, but, like, he hadn't really pulled the trigger on it yet. So, he was, like, a bodyguard, like, manager type so the guy he teamed up with is this guy Delroy that I trained with. He doesn't really wrestle anymore, but he's still a good friend. It was him and Brian XL.
Yeah,
You
Brian
probably
XL,
know Brian XL. Yeah. Yeah, so Delroy and Brian XL were the team, and New Jack was, like, their manager, their coach. I don't know.
The heater.
The heater. Even, and it was great, too, because, like, he would always show up and, like, like the foot, like the coveralls, everything. Like, he looked badass. So, like, actually, the match I had with EC3, Delroy was going to do a run-in afterwards because EC3 was going to beat me up afterwards. And this was, like, my first, like, I guess, match with, like, a big name. And I'm pacing back and forth in the back, like, trying to, like, compose myself. And pretty much, like, pacing back and forth in the same direction as me became very terrifying. It was New Jack, and he just looked like... Don't fucking come near me.
He's getting in the mode.
Yeah, he was getting in the mode to go out and heat. So where was I? Oh, so it was supposed to be Delroy and Brian XL were supposed to start the tag gauntlet. They were going to be another team. Then Balls and I were going to come in, and we were going to do like a double count out thing. Brian XL, I guess, decided he was retiring this weekend, so he just didn't show up. And nobody was informed until Amazing Red showed up and said, oh, yeah, no, Brian doesn't wrestle anymore. So New Jack by this point, and this was at Starland Ballroom in Jersey, New Jack by this point had already tossed back a few Long Island iced teas. So he was fucking hammered, and they were like, hey, New Jack, you're going to wrestle. He's like, all right, whatever. So he comes to we could just tell he was fucked. And then also that day when Balls showed up, Balls would always talk to me for a long time, and that's fine because Balls always had, even if he was saying nothing, he always had something interesting to say. Like one time he like explained Game of Thrones to me in like an hour, like from beginning to end. So like the little I know about Game of Thrones is because of Balls Mahoney on that particular day. Balls showed up and I was outside. He's like, CPA, I gotta talk to you. Come here. And I'm like, what? And we walked the entire perimeter of the Starland Ballroom parking lot, and he told me absolutely nothing. Like he just
rambled.
I don't know. He just said, he literally just rambled. So we're in the back. We're like putting everything together. Well, like, okay, so Delroy and I were doing this match on the premise that we only had like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So Delroy and I called a very quick thing. And then Balls and New Jack were going to come in, and then we were all going to spill out. So Balls was like, all right, Jack, it'll just be just like the old days, you know? We'll just go in there, just ham it up, you know? So
just ham it up.
Yeah, just go, man. Just go. It's like it's Smoky Mountain, man, all over again. So I said to Balls, like, kind of on the side, I was like, hey, you know, like, we only have, like, a minute, right? He's like, CPA, I've been wrestling for 20 years. I'm like, all right, relax. It's okay. I get it. So Delroy and I ran our quick spot, and then Balls and New Jack get in, and, like, I don't know if you could see, like, kind of the doom and gloom Like you could see a shadow descend over me specifically
during your entrance, because it looked like it looked like there was a little doom and gloom during your entrance in the match. So.
Probably, yeah. So they get in and they just lock up and they just start doing stuff. And I was like, oh god, this is a disaster. So like, I think I watched it and like maybe my memory was a little off on it, but I think I pretty much nailed it. Where New Jack shot Balls into the ropes, and like I don't know if you could hear it, but like I heard it because I was standing right there. He said, "Jack, my hip, I can't run." And he's telling New Jack this as New Jack is in the process of shooting him off to the ropes. So like I think you saw it, like Balls just like walks at him and just ducks whatever he was trying to do. And you hear New Jack go headbutt like really loud.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And then I've told this story before, and it makes me laugh every time. And like it's unfortunate because this is actually Balls' second to last match ever before he died. So like the ref tells us like go the fuck home, like just stop. So New Jack grabs Balls. He says shit can, and Balls goes, Jack, no, my hip. And like he forces him out of the ring, and you hear this explosion of Balls just crumbling onto the apron, and then Balls goes, fuck. And then like I said to Delroy, like real pretty audibly, I was like, hey, let's go. We gotta go, man. Let's take it home.
Don't you like like isn't it kind of sad? Because I mean I'm sure you've seen it a million times, like there aren't a lot of those just like crazy old time guys around anymore. Like I'm sure like on the East Coast you saw a million of them.
Yeah, and like again, everyone like found Balls annoying. I just thought he was like so entertaining, and like I didn't even have to ask him. I remember one time we did some show, and another guy and I were in the first match. And we were just about to like start figuring out what we were doing. And Balls comes over and tells us a 45-minute story about the time he almost died in Puerto Rico. And we didn't call the match. We were like, he got done and we were like, all right, like the show's about to start. I guess we'll just go. Like, yeah, it is like, it was, especially when I was first starting. I mean, it's still fascinating to me, but like to just have guys who are around for like ECW and even like Smoky Mountain and just anything like it's a lot of fun, but yeah, they're starting to like kind of disappear, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those guys left, which is like what I like. I love being around those just like weird, like just getting like the weird stories, like or like when Little Guido is around, or like Fonzie being around AIW now all the time. Like I love just hearing the most random ass stories and how crazy the wrestling world used to be, and how like it could never ever go back to that ever again with the advent of social media. But just hearing those crazy ass stories, I love it.
I forget. I think it was like there was the December show. We were out at the after party. I was like so hammered, and like everyone else wanted to go home, and I was like, no, I gotta get Fonzie for the podcast. So I recorded 20 minutes with Fonzie about Giant Gonzalez, and then I dropped my phone as soon as we got done, and it just like all the recording just completely disappeared.
Oh my god! Oh, that's awful.
He had some good stuff.
Oh, he has some great Giant Gonzalez stories.
Oh yeah, we put a couple on this podcast, I think. But
Fonzie texts me about every 2 days during the quarantine, just saying like, "How you doing, Daddy? Stay safe up there. I'm staying safe down here, avoiding the virus. You're let me know if you need me to do anything. I'm just trying to be a good AIW employee."
He's on that unsackable contract.
Yeah, he just like today. Even today, he texted me this morning. I was just like, "Just checking in, Daddy. I'm doing okay. No virus."
Love it.
Nick, I love it's to me. It's probably exciting for you in a shorter time period that you've been able to work with guys like Balls and New Jack and all these dudes, because you are such a historian and student of professional wrestling and independent wrestling. So much so that the one that really had me going on Twitter is when you went at Thorne about the Theater of Pain.
Bro, this was like, I'm trying to think when you guys had the Double Dare tag tournament, and you were talking about all the like bad messages you got.
Yeah.
And you guys started talking about Theater of Pain. I remember distinctly, I was waiting for the bus, and you guys started talking about Theater of Pain, and like, I was like, say no more, and I like whipped out fucking YouTube, and I just went into like such a poisonous rabbit hole
It's insane. Like
of Kmart parking lot wrestling in Ohio.
So you didn't know until the podcast who they were, though.
No.
Oh, it's insane. Like, so I've been going through like all this stuff that these boxes that Chandler Biggins had, and like fans over the years have like given us like Cleveland All Pro VHS tapes that they didn't have any use for. And there is a DVD in which I don't know where it came from, but it is the best of Theater of Pain.
There's a best of?
I guess so.
I mean, that kind of stuff amazes me. Like, all right, you hear about this ridiculousness, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go look this up now, and I'm gonna take a dive into whatever it is.
I remember. So before I ever wrestled for AIW, I did. I don't know if you're allowed to mention them on here. What's the fucking place? The Cleveland Knights place.
Oh, CKCW.
Yeah, I did a show for them, and I was excited to wrestle.
Did you get paid?
Like I'd never. Yes, I did. I got paid way too much for what I did that night too. I was in a 12-person tag match with like just that place. They flew in and put up in hotels like 10 dudes from Puerto Rico that I'd never heard of in my life.
Yeah.
And they were all in my match, and the one guy was like, he was supposed to give me a clothesline at some point, but he didn't tell me he was lefty. So I'm gearing up for a normal clothesline, and then he puts up his left arm, so I kind of like dipped and dove into it, and he knocked me the fuck out. So it was great. Yeah, I got paid way too much to do that show though, but that was a Robbie E hookup. I used to be a Robbie E road brother back in the day.
Oh wow.
I could go on about that for a while.
So I went and I just went and found these DVDs. One is a burned Masters of Mayhem TV presents Volume 1 Theater of Pain Gmo Psycho Mike 2 hours. And then the other one is Masters of Mayhem Underground TV Wrestling Scar Tissue Bloody Cleveland Wrestling Battles. 2 hours of Cleveland, Ohio blood baths with a Z at the end of it. Psycho Mike versus the original Sheik is on this one. Lick Z Sack is also featured. T-Joe Khan, not to be confused with Tony Khan, is on this one. Yeah, I might watch this tonight actually.
Yeah, give me live updates, like a live feed update. I need to hear about this.
Lick Z Sack? Was that what you said?
Lick Z Sack once was gonna murder me. He went to his car to get a gun, and Super Oprah caused a distraction, and I got in a getaway car. He was gonna shoot me though.
What? How did this happen?
I did a couple CWA bookings in my day, and I was a heel, and I was messing with the crowd, and when I went to leave, a guy attacked me, and he was on the show. He didn't like how I was acting to the fans, and he started punching me, and I was fighting back, and Super Oprah was helping me out, and Chandler Biggins went to go get the getaway car, and Lick Z Sack came out, who, if you don't know who Lick Z Sack is, he has the Exorcist tattooed on the back of his head. Ooh. And he is an alleged arms dealer, and he said, I'm going to my car and get an AK-47, I'm going to finish this, and I hopped in the car and I left.
AK-47, that's usually what we all carry around.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's CWA, there's nothing to mess with there. But enough about the Theater of Pain. Let's talk about Nick CPA Stapp. What's with the character change, the name change? What's behind that?
I've been wanting to do it for a while. I just didn't really know what name to go with, and B, I guess I'd fallen into a little bit of a comfort zone with CPA, but I was also subconsciously already doing things that were not very CPA like, and I was just I'm not, I'm not really doing the tie stuff anymore. I'm wearing trunks now and shit. Why not just just put a stamp on it and kind of, make it official, basically.
How long were you CPA?
Ooh, about 6 years, a little more than 6 years. The CPA thing was like a total joke too. Like, I was training for about a month and a half, and Pat put me in a student battle royal. And originally I wanted to do like an Occupy Wall Street hipster gimmick.
Okay.
But this was at the tail end of Occupy Wall Street. There were still at least 2 people at Zuccotti Park on a daily basis chanting to no one. And my friend, it was like, hey, I got this idea for like an evil accountant who got cryogenically frozen in 1986, and now he's unthawed and he's trying to take out the wrestling business and all this shit. That was the original idea for it, but then it just kind of went in its own direction. A lot of that credit to Pat Buck, because he heard me he heard me like cut a promo as CPA, and he's like, no, you're doing this all wrong. He's like, you are like the most awkward, like uncomfortable person I've ever spoken to, and you need to just do that like that. He's like, you need to be your gimmick, like it needs to be you. So that's kind of how it evolved from there.
So now Nick Stapp is just officially an awkward, uncomfortable person.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess it's me, just without a tie and a button-up shirt. Yeah, I mean, sad boy, kind of like, I guess
what prompted the sadness? Let's get.
Are you sad, man?
I have not at the moment. I'm fine. I'm talking to people that I like talking to, but on a general basis, yeah. I mean, I overthink things, and especially right now with nothing going on, and like who knows when we're going to be back, and who knows if anyone's going to give a shit about me, much less having me around in however long it takes for us to resume activities in pro wrestling. So I don't know, things like that kind of weigh heavy on my mind. So yeah,
I think that's I think that's weighing heavy on everyone.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I'm driving myself crazy over it, and I mean this has been going on for a while though. It's just a constant battle, just because. And I was talking to someone recently, and they're like, "No, you're great. Like you're a good person." I was like, it's funny how many people like totally like on my side, willing to help me out, and I'm just not willing to accept it because I got so used to not having that.
Is there some form of you have like some sort of diagnosis? We had Magnum CK on. We talked a little bit about the mental health stuff. Is this something that you deal with?
There's no diagnosis because
Oh no! I mean, I think everybody kind of deals with that, especially now being in the quarantine, so to speak. I think a lot of people are driving themselves crazy because like a person like me I've never gotten off the wrestling hamster wheel in like almost 20 years. So yeah. Like I'm like even when AIW doesn't have a show for like a month, let's say. There's always like 3 or 4 more that are in the planning stages that are upcoming. So it's like no time off pretty much ever. And now it's just kind of like, okay, what do I do with my time? It's like, and like my regular job, I'm only there like once every 1 week out of every 3 weeks I'm there. So it's just like, okay, like what do I do? And it's just like, how do I keep AIW relevant? Does anybody even care right now with what's going on in the world about what day an independent wrestling show is going to happen again? Like, it's just, I mean, it does weigh heavy on a lot of people, but I've just been trying to like stay busy, and I found that it's been a little bit of kind of refreshing to me because, I haven't had any kind of high level stress going on based on wrestling, which is usually like, I mean, I really like, I don't know, like it just became such a huge part of my life that it was just like, it was just how I lived. And now I'm just kind of like, just like chilling out. And like, I found that like my brain feels so much more like at ease than it has in years. So I think that is good, but I also see how people can be driving themselves crazy because it's like you could go to the grocery store and that's really it. There's no socializing or, doing any sort of fun activities or, it's not even about wrestling. It's just like in general life, there's like nothing to do right now.
Yeah, it's obviously like I haven't been into it as long, or I haven't been in the game as long as you have and most people, but it does consume a lot of my day. Even when I'm at work, I'll just think of like, what could I be doing better? And like I have Twitter open all day, so I'm like, all right, like what's everyone else doing? What's everyone else doing to kind of like stay on the radar? And I've been trying to do that, and I don't know. I just it's that type of thing. I think every wrestler probably goes through it, where it's like you post something, and you look in like an hour, and you're like, oh, it only got X amount of this much engagement, and you kind of like freak out about it a little bit. But on the AIW side of things, I think it's been great that all these shows have been coming up on IWTV and you've been like adding to the catalog. So I think that will definitely help a lot as far as sustainability.
I think that's like the one benefit that we have, maybe more than some other places, is we do have an extensive library that can keep us relevant. Allegedly, supposedly, like we're going to stream every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. and they're just going to go in reverse order of the catalog. So, I mean, we've had over 200 shows. So, I mean, technically, if needed, we could last 200 weeks on IWTV every Wednesday before we run out of stuff to show. But, it keeps you relevant, kind of. But then, like, it's like, how often are people going to watch? And, that's the stuff I struggle with. It's like, okay, like I don't see a lot of people live tweeting this show, which sounds so ridiculous, but because it's a show that's already happened a long time ago. But, like you were saying, that's a kind of like, that's almost how anybody in wrestling right now kind of gauges their worth, so to speak. It's like, how many likes did I get on this tweet? How many replies did I get? Like, it's kind of crazy, but we all obsess over that, and it could be like, man, I thought like this was going to be like the thing that catches on, and like you get no interaction on it, and it can like really bum you out for the rest of the week. Yeah.
It's been me several times a day.
When was the first time you came to AIW? Not necessarily had a match.
The first time I came was the Rubber City Con show.
Okay,
Bobby.
Oh, you did get a match with the Booker T guys.
Yes, that was terrifying because
like,
Booker T. Like I was teaming up with Bobby Orlando, and we're both ridiculous human beings, and we both do ridiculous things. So I was like, all right, like we were more worried about Booker T's impression of us than we were about as far as like executing things in the match, because like.
Did Booker T give you any feedback after that?
He definitely did. He actually gave us like really good feedback afterwards, and it wasn't like go burn your boots. It was like, all right, you guys had a really good match for this crowd, but you have to keep in mind that you can't do stuff like that in front of every crowd. Unfortunately, at the time, I don't remember what I did, but I gave myself a concussion on that first AIW show I was on. So the whole time, and this has never happened to me, which is why it kind of freaked me out. I had like this black spot in my vision, so every time I moved my eyes, it would just kind of follow me. So I was like listening to Booker T, but also noticing that something was happening with my eyes because I fucked myself up so much at some point during the match. But yeah, gave us really good feedback. I think that talk helped me out a lot too, just as far as evolving into whatever I am now. And I think pretty much every AIW show I've been on has been kind of like a growing experience, because it is, I guess, it's an indie crowd, but it's a different indie crowd. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like AIW has its own has its own vibe that I can't really explain, but
Yeah, I mean, we do try to, like, I don't want to call it like our own universe or whatever, but like we do have our own like kind of niche crowd, and then there's like people that are only AIW fans, and like that's something that I struggle with too, because it's like we have this like awesome base, but like how do we break through to the, you know, the next level as an independent wrestling company? Because I do think that we have a ton of talented guys and girls, and it just, you know, it can be tough to kind of break through, because, you know, we do have this like loyalty, but it's like, how do we get, you know, like people like go like clamoring for us, you know, like WrestleMania weekend, like we had like a pretty good, I guess, pre-sale going into Tampa, and that's reassuring, but it's like you're also looking at it and you're like, well, this could be better, like what are we doing wrong? But I do think that you have contributed a lot and kind of fit in quite a bit, because I think the thing that we do differently than a lot of like the quote unquote indie crowds is like we do have characters and try to do some loose angles and stories, and I think that helps, you know, especially guys like you who are trying to reestablish themselves in this new character.
yeah, it's helped a lot. And again, like I know there have been, you know, there have been good points, there have been good been not so great points, but yeah, in this kind of downtime, it's given me, especially watching these shows as they're being posted, it's given me a lot of time to, you know, kind of refresh how I'm looking at how I'm doing things or what I could be doing differently to kind of not just be another wrestling character on a show. And that's, I guess, like my biggest, well, it's a relatively speaking, one of my bigger struggles as a pro wrestler has been to be more than just a pro wrestler. You know what I mean? Like when I was doing the CPA thing, I had people who weren't wrestling fans who said like, oh, I really enjoy your stuff, and I don't really and being that I grew up watching guys like Piper and Hogan and like Ric Flair and guys who kind of like transcended wrestling, so that's kind of a big thing on my mind as you know, progressing the character and progressing whatever I'm doing in the ring or out of the ring especially.
Yeah, I think, you know, I do think that it is important for indie wrestlers to have a gimmick. I think it helps guys kind of stand out and do things more, or make things mean more when they do them. Like a Dr. Dan, for example, I think, you know, that has helped him excel, you know, so much further than, you know, being just like a guy that does moves. You know, like every wrestler, I feel, just wants to be the guy that does moves, and there's really nothing to that. There's a million people like that. Unless you're like a freak athlete, you know, it's not gonna really pay off that well for you. And I think, you know, as you kind of figure out who Nick Stapp is and all that stuff, I think it's going to come to you, because you did have success with CPA, you know, and like you were able to work that character into how you work the match, and it was a total package. And I think, you know, the more you kind of toy with it, you're going to find that total package again, because you did it before.
Yeah, I meant to. You said something that kind of triggered something in my brain. Yeah, that, actual moves, like like you're watching it as a casual fan. Oh, he like did a move to a guy. Like I didn't start doing that until probably like 3-4 years in. Like all my offense was actually defense for the first few years, because I just didn't like trust myself. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I don't know. It was just I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to do moves. And then as I started traveling around more and watching other guys perform, I was like, oh, I have to do like more stuff. You know what I mean? And I feel like that kind of diluted things a lot, because then you overthink, like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and this would look cool and this would look cool. But, you know, I guess I have to meet in the middle somewhere because it's hard. I'm not like a naturally good athlete, in case you hadn't noticed. So it takes a little more for me. I have to put a little more thought into things. So I could be like, oh, I'm going to go do this cool dive thing or whatever. And then I'll do it and it'll look like shit. And then someone will do it the match before, the match after, and they'll do it perfectly. And it'll be like, oh, well, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Unless that was part of the design of why I was doing it, for it to look like shit, which obviously doesn't make sense in the grand scope of why you're wrestling. So yeah, that's been a big kind of transition for me too, to just kind of evolve the style and evolve the character and all that.
One of the things that you have going for you very well, specifically at AIW, as we talk about character and what helps you with that, is you come out from behind those curtains and instantly people are on board because of your song. Did you choose that as your entrance theme, or how did that come about?
So
with Warrior,
I came out to Spanish Flea by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass for the first bunch of years I was wrestling. Then I just I started to watch a lot more of the. I would watch like indie matches, but more focus on like guys' intensity and like how they came out and how fans would perceive them. And I started to think like, I should get a song that has a little more energy to it. My first experiment with that, which was the complete opposite, but it was more of a thing for me, like, oh, I get energy out of this song, so I'm going to choose this. I came out to a brand new song that has like no drums. It's like a very slow melodic song, and I came out to that at like a handful of shows, and it didn't really work. And then I guess like one night I was a little hammered, and I was just like looking through like songs that I had like saved on YouTube, and I came across the Warrior, and I was like, oh, how about this, maybe. And I like I literally listened to the first minute and a half like 80, like probably 50 times in a row, and just like how could I make an entrance out of this? Because obviously it's not one of those songs where it's a big build up, because like I don't know, maybe it's like the I watch guys who have entrances, and their entrances it takes like 15, 20, 30 seconds to get to the big hook, and then they come out and they look like they're walking to the bus stop. I was like, no, I need to have that point where I come out and it's like an explosion, like everyone knows, like, all right, I'm here to like, I'm here to do something, you know what I mean? Not,
you get hit with that "come on, baby," like, yes, like arm
exactly,
song,
something like that.
Yeah.
And I tried to avoid that for a long time, but I think the first time I came out to that, I just came out and was like, all right, I'm like, I did a speed walk to the ring, and I was like, nah, you need something else there. And I mean, literally, I'm still working on it. It's a thing that I'm still working on, like every time, just because I'm like, I'm kind of tired of like just coming out and yelling. Don't want to do the arm thing. I don't want to do this. I think I did this a little stupid. It took a little long to do this. So again, like that's just like another process. But yeah, that was just I don't know. I think I could be wrong. I think the first time I came out to that was at the first Odeon show I was on, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds probably right. I think
right.
Something you said is like a struggle a lot of wrestlers have, and it's like, you're talking about that executing the move thing, and like, somebody's going to do it better than you later in the show or before you or something like that. And like, that's the ultimate struggle I feel that all independent wrestlers have right now, because it's like they want, you want to get gift, you want to have a gif of you, but it's like, and it's like that, almost like that badge of honor so many guys look for. And it does cause a lot of overthinking, and like I feel that a lot of wrestlers forget about the crowd that they're in front of, because they're hoping that somebody will watch it and gif some move that they did. And ultimately it really, if you really think about the gif wrestling thing, like it hasn't really paid off for a lot of guys too much. Like there's very few that have blown up off of doing one move. However, it seems to be like that holy grail thing that so many wrestlers are chasing.
Yeah, so I guess for me, that's like a multi-layered thing where, so when I first started wrestling, we were pretty much, I was only doing shows like that Pat was running, so it was in like Rahway, New Jersey, or like that general area, and like, I'm not saying this to, you know, pat myself on the back, but with you know, with doing virtually no moves, I had like a really, really good following there, but I always felt like at the end of the day, I could get like the biggest reaction of the show doing literally nothing, but like the fans would notice it, but nobody, you know, nobody. It's a weird thing where like ultimately the fans are the ones paying to get in and paying to see you, but you have that like that weird insecurity of like, oh, like, yeah, I got a good pop and like everyone liked the match, like all the fans liked the match, but like when I got to the back, like everyone just fucking ignored me. You know what I mean? It's really dumb, but it's become a thing because nowadays I feel like a lot of the advancement happens with, you know, let's say, you know, I can't think of a name off the top of my head, so I'll just say, let's say Balls Mahoney was in the back of an AIW show, and he has a Twitter account, which he never would, but he has a Twitter account, and he goes on and says, man, fucking Nick rocked it, blah, 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 and then it gets a bunch of retweets, and then other promoters that he works for, maybe, you know, again, it's a really dumb philosophy, but it is, I think it's like a real thing in the whole insecurity landscape of being an indie wrestler, or just a wrestler in general, but definitely on this level.
You know, it's amazing as we wind this down. I'm going to bring it up finally after I put it off the whole episode. I was trying
to keep him off of it, CPA.
But you know, it's perfect because as we talk about in the age of social media and Twitter, things that can get you talked about, you found a way outside of the ring at Wrestlerager last year. And first of all, when did you find out that poor Chuck Stone was being blamed for this?
I didn't find that out until probably like a month later. I guess whenever the next AIW show was is when I found out. I think. Who told me? I think Worldwide might have told me about it. I could be wrong about that, but
did you apologize to him?
I apologized to him over Twitter because I didn't actually get to talk to him that night. But I apologized to him over Twitter, which is the honest and decent thing to do, is to apologize publicly.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that we've told the story from our angle on this podcast before.
Well, we've insinuated it. I've always said that it was CPA's story to tell, and I know you told it on your podcast, and I think that's kind of where a lot of the loose ends that we've left on this podcast were tied up over on your podcast.
Interesting choice of word.
I think that's how people have put the whole thing together.
Well, I guess when I was doing it on my podcast, I was talking to people who weren't there physically, so I had to cut out certain parts of it. I'll try to. I mean, if you want me to get into it, I'll get into it.
Let's do it. So we have Wrestlerager, and now that's class. We go into the after party. The ring is broken down.
So that day, I came in with Bear Country. They had a show in like Chicago or something like that, and they were going to pick me up on the way back. I ate literally nothing that entire day, just because, I don't know, I just didn't really think about eating. I was like, I'll eat, whatever. I think Dan and I were opening match, and then I just started drinking like immediately. So just started drinking, hanging out, talking, whatever. And at some point I went to the bar, and like for some reason there was really no one else at the bar, and like they just completely ignored me, and I was like too hammered to like say words, so I was just like, all right, I'll just wait with my 20 in my hand and just wait and see what happens. And then a young lady comes over to me and just says, hey, I was at the show, you fucking kicked ass, whatever. And I was like, thanks, whatever. But she was with another dude at the time, so I assumed that it was like, oh, okay, whatever, it is what it is, she's with her boyfriend. But then she like kept talking to me, and she was being very aggressive and like bumping into me and like doing all this shit. And I was like, I'm gonna fall down. This is awful. So I went outside, I think, or no, yeah, I think I went outside to like pee or something. I was like, all right, she'll go away. Like or I went to pee, whatever. It was, she'll disappear at some point. I came back in and she was still like, she wasn't at the bar. I went back to the bar to try to get a beer, and then she came back and she was like, hey, you left. And I was like, sorry. So she just kept talking to me. Hey, I don't know. Maybe it's like the insecure / like paranoid person in me, where I was like, I don't want to assume that this is what I think it might be, because like people are weird now, and like if I try to make a move, like if you try to make a move on someone, maybe they'll be like, oh, you're touching me, whatever. I don't know. People are weird.
When you were outside, you did tell me that we talked briefly before you went back in, and you did say that there was a young lady inside, and you weren't sure if she was into you or just drunk.
I don't remember that, so I'm glad.
I do remember that. I remember that conversation, and then I see you later on, and she's just like hanging all over you. Like somehow you both end up back outside, or maybe I was inside, and I was like, "Oh, is this?" And you were like, "Yeah, this is the girl." I was like, "Yeah, she's into you, dude."
Yeah, I have. I'm a child. I'm essentially a large child who doesn't know how to deal with normal life situations. So we kept talking, and then like I was just starting to kind of ease into. I was like, all right, maybe she's actually like into me. And then like the guy she was with disappeared, and I was like, all right, this is like a real thing now. Like this is a thing that I have to deal with, and I have to make a decision, like soon, because it could end regardless. If I make a move and nothing, and she says get the fuck off of me, then whatever, or she could just leave, whatever. So whatever, we started making out, and then like we went into the area where the bands were playing, and we continued there. And then I remember like at one point I like kind of opened my eyes and looked, and like someone was looking at us, like a wrestling personality was looking at us. I don't remember who, because I was probably Raven. It was probably Raven. It could have been.
I actually think I'm gonna say that it was Worldwide, because I think that it was at this point that then Worldwide ends up coming outside and telling me that CPA is making out or something with a friend of his, a girl that he knew, and he was all upset because there was some, I don't know, he was upset about girl things in general, but then he was looking for that girl because he was friends with her. There's a lot of weird things.
There's a lot of similar parallels between you and Worldwide. You guys get both very upset about girls.
Yeah,
and he was in that mood that night,
which I found out a few days later when he DM'd me about it and was like, "Listen, this is the deal with that." But so I remember my thought process was, okay, we could go to the bathroom, but it's very small, and I think there's only one stall in the bathroom. I was like, that's not going to work. I've done that before. It's fine.
You should have looked into Club Atlantis, brother.
What's Club Atlantis? Oh, is that the? Yes, I didn't know there was a basement. Actually, I think you told me there was a basement earlier on.
Got no comment on the rest of that story.
You had in passing mentioned there was a basement, so I was like. And I remember I had peed by the dumpster earlier that day, and I was like, oh, I know an area where we can go, make out and just, be in some version of confidence. So we went out there, and whatever. I guess everyone knows enough already, but usually if things are getting hot and heavy enough with a girl, I will... usually it's in a house or, an enclosed area. So this is not that I haven't done things like this before, which is why I was like, whatever, in the aftermath, I was like, well, it's nothing I wouldn't have normally done, but, it got recorded, unfortunately. So that was the X factor to it. But yeah, we were, just making out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do the thing that I sometimes do. And I was
being a gentleman.
Honestly, I was being John. It started off in a Mike Piazza catcher squat, and I was like, "This is really uncomfortable, and I'm going to fall." So that's where we ended up. And then I remember I heard people yelling from like really close.
Yeah, we're yelling about Chuck Stone.
It's Chuck Stone.
I heard people yelling, and I was like, "All right, whatever. Maybe they're yelling about something else." And then I heard my name, and I was like.
Well, we thought it was Chuck Stone because Chuck Stone is known to have his girlfriend around at all times, and I thought that maybe the night had just taken a hold of him, and I think that they just might have in my head I thought, man, like the magic of Wrestlerager has really just taken them by storm, and we thought Chuck Stone was just going in with his girlfriend.
So I then, because you were wearing a T-shirt, saw the tattoos, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not Chuck Stone. Chuck Stone doesn't have tattoos." And we're like, "Who has those tattoos?" And I don't remember if it was Tom Lawler or who it was, but somebody eventually then figured it out. They're like, "Oh no, that's CPA."
Oh, it wasn't figured out for a little bit though. Like
it took a minute. Yeah, it took a little while.
Yeah, it took a while, and. Yeah, but you have since you've rekindled this a few times with this guy, right?
Yeah.
So just a quick ending to that. I remember after we got done with that, and that's all that happened. Yeah. I went inside, and Thorne came up to his phone and said, "Hey, I'm sending this video to Kurt Hawkins," and I said, "Oh, a video of my match?" And he said, "No," and he showed me the video, and I was like, "Fuck!" And I like ran outside. I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh man, I apologize. I was way too drunk.
I was more worried about like getting canceled over it or something. Like, "Oh, look at this fucking pig," I don't know.
Oh, I wasn't gonna put it on a public forum. It was just a little private share.
Okay, so. I don't. If you guys want to cut this out, whatever. I don't know. So a weird thing that happened later that night. After like pretty much everyone else had left and they were doing last call, and I was with the girl at the bar. We were like, whatever. Just we might have been holding it. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I was pretty drunk by that point. Another girl had come up to us and like sized us up, and she was like, "Hey, you guys are pretty cute. You want to have a four with me and my boyfriend later?" And I was like. I was already like just completely blackout drunk by that point, but I remember it, and I was like, I don't even have words right now. And she was like, "Yeah," and the girl was like, "All right, give me your number. I'll call you guys later." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And so I asked the girl about it. Then when we met up eventually a few months later, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember that because I think the girl called me later." So that could have also happened. I don't know.
Wow. Wrestlerager is it's just a wild environment.
It is. It's my favorite day of the year now. And then I think we went to a diner after. I don't know how they found me because my phone, I was not answering my phone. I wasn't looking at my phone, but somehow they found me at some diner like a mile away from there.
Probably at my friend's.
Yeah.
Oh, but
with
Bear
everybody
Country,
else. That's the go-to diner.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't.
But you have kept in contact with this girl.
Oh right, so I took her number down, and I won't say her name, but it was. Let's just say it's let's just say it's Agnes for the purpose of the story. Her name in my phone was Agnes, probably with a question mark at the end, because I didn't know, and we didn't really like. I think we texted like one or two times afterwards, and then that phone died on me. So I got the phone. I got her. I still had her number in my phone, but I didn't have it saved. So I was like, I think that's her. So I just put it as Agnes, probably with a question mark. And then like 3 months later, she texted me. It was like, "Hey, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I'm working in Pennsylvania, so let's hang out." So then her name in my phone now is, for argument's sake, Agnes, definitely. So yeah, that was my Wrestlerager.
So where does this? So now it just stands at you just kind of keep in contact.
Yeah,
the romance is not fully continued on.
We in classic Nick fashion, we after the Built to Last show, she met up with me at Good Company afterwards, and then we went to the same diner that we went to that one time, not on purpose, but just because whatever. And we hooked up in her car, and that's just the way it goes, I guess. I don't know. We're not meant to do things in warm places.
Did you ever watch the movie For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner?
No, I guess I should though.
Oh, all right. It's a baseball movie that he essentially creates this relationship with a woman played by Kelly Preston, and he plays for the Tigers, but every time he goes back to New York, which is where she is, they basically, like, that's his girl. Like, that's their relationship. So it's like they're in a relationship, but only when the team plays in New York for that 3-day series.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is.
Well, I think that's probably the story to go out on, right, John?
Yeah, there's no topping that one.
Oh, actually, side note to that, I forget which show it was after. I think Thorne already brought this up in the podcast. A few months after this, we were at the after party, and it's a person that Thorne knows, and he started telling her about the story. And he was like, "Oh, tell her the dumpster story." And I started telling her it, and then Bear Bronson came over with his phone and showed her the video, and she turned white as a fucking ghost and like ran away.
Yeah, and that was just a totally different girl.
Yeah,
Bear Bronson just he threw you under the bus with that one.
Big time.
He was just like, "Hey, is this the kind of guy you're looking for?"
He came over. He's like, "Hey, I got the video," and I smacked the phone out of his hand. And then he showed her anyway. So.
Hey, I only sent it to Hawkins. Many have asked, and they have not received it. So
I know
that goes back on Hawkins.
I had people asking me for it the next day. I was like, I don't have it. I don't know about this video. I don't know.
Alley Cat was hot after that footage. I'll tell you that. She was begging for it.
She was. Yeah, she was. She was looking all over for that. Yep. Well, I love it. It was such a fun time. I think we covered a wide array of topics here. It was lovely to have you on, Nick. Any final thoughts you want to leave us on?
Any plugs? Plug your podcast, your social media?
Yeah. I'm at Nick Stapp OK on the Twitter and the Instagram. I am on Off the Hop Rope podcast, where we mix craft beer with wrestling matches. We find some way to tie them in.
Well, thank you for joining us again. For Nick Stapp, for AIW owner John Thorne, my name is Steve Guy. We will talk to you next week right here on AIW's The Card is Going to Change.